Alright, welcome back. So we got the beautiful hum of the gas leaf blowers to start the day with a little bit of singing. Don't let it be an angel song and crash into the rocks. So I'm making sure to do that. So I got my headphones on. It's a very enticing sound, and I could be lured into my ultimate demise. So let's take a look at the last video that I did. The last video, I just tried to get back to where I got back, where Mike and I got to. The problem with that is where we got is enabling, so getting rid of host key checking. And yeah, that's a way to do it. That's the way I typically do it. You know, it's the kind of thing where everywhere you go, they'll do that. And then what they'll say is, don't do it this way. And it's like, well, how else do I do it? There's literally nowhere else where they actually take you through what is the appropriate way to do that. So that's kind of one of the pet peeves I have when it comes to learning. What they need to be doing is saying, for now, we will not worry about the security implications, but in the real world, it's really important you don't do it this way. So save this link, bookmark this link, and if you can't get this to work in your lab, spend 5 minutes trying to get this to work. If you can't, move on and do it this way. But don't forget that you have to make it work this correct way if you're ever going to implement it in the real world. It's a pet peeve of mine that, first of all, there's, 5 leaf blowers directly outside my window. And then the other pet peeve is that documentation tends to move on from security concerns and not treat them with the gravity that they are due. And then it creates a situation where I know I'm not meant to do it this way, but there's literally no place I can go to learn to do it the other way. This is the only learning resource I have, and this resource only works if I do it in this insecure way. So unfortunately, that's kind of the state of things. So there's literally no leaves on the ground. Maybe it's because there's 5 leaf blowers out there. I guess that would make sense. But I feel like there would be like a lot of leaves on the ground for there to be 5 people. Like, there's literally one person blowing the leaves, and then there's another person behind this person blowing the leaves again, and there's no leaves in front of the person. Oh, okay. I see a few. I see like a handful of leaves. All right. Well, let's move on. I don't think it's audible anyway, so we're gonna go on to the lab and open up the Ansible control node. There are 3, they're all blowing in the same direction. The direction where there aren't leaves, because there aren't any leaves in any direction. Alright, so new version is available. Do not want it. Want to keep the state of things. Alright, that looks good. See, I planned for these kind of situations by having an extra tier of noise canceling earmuffs. I'm wearing the 24s. I wear the 24s all day. Because if I didn't, there'd be barking dogs. But I have a pair of like 45s. But I can't keep the 45s straight. Like I always lose the 45s because I use them so rarely. So this is like why I got the 45s. I'm just gonna pause it and go try to find the 45s for a few minutes. All right, so I found them. They're literally right next to me the whole time because they're ready to go in case of a situation like this. So I found them. The leaf blowers are gone, so I don't even need them now. And my blood pressure is probably very high. I am checking it right now. But let's move on to the lab. All right, it's pretty much 120 over 80, but the American Heart Association or whatever is in charge of that sort of thing actually has changed all their guidelines so that 120 over 80 is no longer the ideal blood pressure. It's the very high end of the ideal blood pressure and the very low end of the unideal blood pressure. So I have this 122 over 81. So I have not necessarily bad blood pressure, but suboptimal blood pressure. Optimal blood pressure is below 120 over 80, and then higher than the low threshold, which is like very, very low. All right, so here's my Ansible control node. So I will open up Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to switch over to my big headphones just because I want that. Alright, yeah, that actually is a lot better. I can hear myself better. Alright, and I've got a virtual environment there, but I need to open this to here. And then in Visual Studio Code, open the virtual environment. Okay, so we've got the Visual Studio Code open, so now I need a terminal. Okay, terminal is open, so source. Okay, and so now everything's good. I can run the playbook, and then the cool thing is we've got everything committed and ready to go and synced with the repository. If I do a git pull, everything's up to date. If we look at the version control, we've got no commits pending there. So what I can do now, which is pretty awesome, is ansible-playbook-i hosts.ini, and then I can do I can run the playbook again. So this will be the campus Juniper fax playbook. And now if there's any changes that occurred on my network, it will show up in the version control, which is a pretty cool feature. It's a really easy way to see what changed in your network. Seeing who changed it is a bit harder. You do have to jump on the device. See, for me, like a lot of my apprehensions about Ansible as well come from these devices. You know, they're the idea of not using the command line. Yeah, somebody who's trained in the command line isn't a perk. It means you can't see who made the change, you can't see when they made the change, you can't see what the change exactly was. You just get this kind of distorted, simplified view of it, and it's like, what good is that? I mean, I guess just to see if a change occurred, it's kind of nice, but you can do that through SNMP monitoring. Like, you should have some kind of, like, you know, syslog traps or like something set up like that. So yeah, that's just where I'm coming from. All right, so we've got, oh, it looks like we do have a change. That's kind of fascinating. So let's see what the change was. And it's a change on all the devices. So, and I have a feeling I know what it was. Yeah, so the only change was that the show run actually is has a timestamp in it, and oh no, there was more than just that. Okay, well that's good. Okay, well it looks like something in Ansible itself changed. The memory changed, and I guess the idle times changed. So kind of stuff. The start time changed, the uptime changed. All right. So I guess I'll commit those. So Juniper fax update. All right, and then what's the next one? Oh, right, getting the Cisco devices to work. So let's look at the playbook for that. And we'll compare it to the Juniper playbook. Okay, so we might be able to change it to netconf. Let's take a look at the host file as well. Yeah, so... Oh. This is interesting. I actually don't see... Oh, there it is. There it is. So... Yeah, it's using CLI. So let's try changing that to netconf and making sure that netconf is enabled on the device. And then if that works, then that works. All right, so this works. So we're going to change this to netconf. And I'll just change it on the Cisco's for now. The EOS, I'll work on that later. All right, and then I'll log into all my Cisco's and make sure that netconf is enabled on them. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 connections. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, so we've got a connection refused to data LS04. So there's something going on that device. That's good to know. So make sure that everything else is good. All right, and then let's troubleshoot data LS04. So that's in the data center here, and it's a leaf, and it's this device right here. So enable show run. Must have forgotten to do a write config on this, so we'll just take the show run from 03. All right, and we'll take the whole thing and doctor it up in a notepad and then paste it in to 04. All right, I think all I need to do is change the host name. Everything else is going to be exactly the same because all I'm doing is configuring access to the device. So it's going to be access with the same username. It belongs to the same domain name. It's the same device, so all the same port and stuff gets configured. So I think this is ready to go now. So I'm going to paste it into 04. Now I made a very easy mistake to make when working on Junipers in this compassion. If you click a right click, it'll paste in everything in your clipboard, and that's really not a feature that I like having, especially in production. In a lab like this, it doesn't matter, and it's a good example of what not to do. In production, I use a terminal, secure CRT, something like that, and I like to disable that function of the right click pasting in, because usually it's something like this is what happens with that. It pastes in things you didn't intend. So not only that, I actually like to change it to Control Shift paste instead of just Control Shift V instead of Control V, because how many times do we use a computer and just hit Control V? All day we do that. So I want to have that extra second where it's like, wait, what am I really trying to do? Is this the right thing to do? What's in my clipboard? The best way to do it, I would say, and the way I actually want to do it going forward, is you can do Windows V, because then it puts up your clipboard, and then you select from the clipboard what you want. So it has a history of things in the clipboard. So that's the best way to do it. The way I've done it in the past, before I knew about that hotkey, was a decent way as well. You just kind of make it a little bit hard for you to paste something in. But I think the best way is to just look at what's in your keyboard and then select in your clipboard, and then select the content that you want to paste in. All right, so moving on to 04. Okay, so we've got an IP address now. The interface is up. So this might have been where I went wrong last time. I got to do a write memory or a copy run start. It's basically the same thing. So yeah, I think it is exactly the same thing. There might be some difference into where it actually goes on the device, but if you do either one, I think there actually is no difference. I'm not exactly sure though. So there we go. We've got that set up. So the next step. Okay, so the next step, we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code on the control node. So there we go. We're looking at it through VNC. And we're back in to that now. So we're going to see if that connection issue is fixed. And we'll have to accept the host key most likely. But that's fine. That's not the part that's insecure. The part that is insecure is actually not checking the host keys. Okay, so we've got another problem here. The same problem as before, connection refused. So let's look back over that configuration. Okay, and then let's just go piece by piece. It looks like everything is pretty good. So we've got SSH with the key. So I'm surprised that we're getting connection refused. We have the management VRF. So I wonder if that management VRF didn't make it on there. I'm thinking that's what happened. Let's look at the. Yeah, I don't see the management VRF anywhere there. So I think that's what the problem is. Okay, so here's the definition of the management VRF. So let's make sure that's in there. All right, and then we'll try it again. Okay, and some of my sessions here are timing out. I can change the timeout so that they don't time out. But first, I do need to troubleshoot this issue here of it not logging into this device. So what I'm going to do now is something I would do a lot in the real world. I'm going to use a feature of Notepad++, and then I will compare the configuration of this one against a configuration of one that is working. So let's grab everything here. All right, and then we've got the show running config there. So now the way this works, I'm sure you can do it in Visual Studio Code as well, but I'm just used to using it here, and if it works, it works. So I'm going to keep using it there. So we should see a change in this last line here. It'll be 0.3 in the other one, and then another change in the first line here. It would be 0.3 again, and then we'll see the configuration change, and then it'll highlight anything that is the issue. So I'm going to need to come back. All right, there we go. So then the next step will be to paste it in here. Make sure everything's pretty much ready to go. I don't think I have a new line at the end. I just like to get everything meticulous. All right, and now that they're side by side like this, on this one, I make sure this one's highlighted, and then I go to Tools, and then I go to, or actually, sorry, I go to Plugins, and now I don't have it installed, so I've got to go to Plugins Admin. And then the plugin I'm looking for is called Compare. So we'll click that and then do install. And then it will restart it, but the good thing about that is it automatically saves everything. And then we're going to do plugins, compare. And now we see we have 0.4 here on the left, and then 0.3 here on the right. So we do have a change down here. That could be the culprit. Nothing there. Okay, so there are no differences between the config, which could be a bad thing. It could be that some config in 0.4 needed to be changed, but hasn't been changed. Okay, and honestly, I think I know the issue. So I think the issue is that 0.4 doesn't have the keys generated. So I can check for that, and that's just one of those things where, you know, I'm a professional in this field, so I know that that's probably the issue just due to my experience. So we're going to clear all the compares so that it goes back to looking nice and neat there. We're going to go to 0.4, and then we're going to go show SSH or show crypto. Yeah, show crypto. And then let's just do show. Yeah, let's just do show crypto. So, oh no, there we go. So we're gonna do show crypto key. And then my public key. Okay. And then RSA. So see how there's no output here? So let's try that on 03. Okay, so 03, we do have a public key. So the problem is the SSH keys were never generated on 04. So the answer for that is crypto key generate RSA. Oh, and we want it to be, I believe we want it to be 2048, but I can check that on here. All right, so all right, so it doesn't actually show the information I was looking for. I was wondering what kind of key, like how many, like if it was a 248 key, and it's not showing that information. So maybe if I do tech support, I'll get the full output on that. We can see if it was, I believe it's 2048. You know what? I think I'll just set it to 2048, and then if there's still an issue, then I'll dig in and see if it's something other than 2048. But I'm pretty confident it's 2048. So that's the fastest way. And let's see if that fixes the issue. So this is 03. 03 was not having issues. So 04 is the one with the connection refused. But now it has the keys where it didn't before. There we go. And now we've got a more successful message. The connection wasn't refused. It was just an insecure connection. The remote host identification has changed. This means that it could be a man-in-the-middle attack. But we know that it's not because it's in the lab. So we're going to accept that new key that's being offered, even though it doesn't match with the key we were expecting. Now, there might be a way to take that old key and put that on the other device, but I've never really heard of that. So I think the easiest way, and the way that would be done in production, really kind of the only way to do it as far as I know, is you know that it's trusted, you know that it's the correct device, so you clear out the old key that you thought it was, and then you add the new key. So you just have to update your files to have that new key for the host in there. And that's the most secure way of doing it as far as I know. Maybe there's a more secure way where you can repurpose that old key, but that I wouldn't think is secure either, because if somebody has that old key and you just keep using that old key and you never update it, then they don't have to constantly get it right. So recycling those keys, changing your passwords, those are basic security 101. So yeah, this is a good way to do it. Write memory, and we're good. So now the next thing I think I want to do is change the executive timeout. So we're going to do line VTY 0 through 15. I'm not sure how many lines there are. There's usually at most 16. So this will cover all the ones. We're going to do exec timeout. We're going to do login, actually. Login. Yep. Oh, timeout. Okay, so we'll do timeout, login. I used to know what this was, and it's different per device. This might be different. Oh, here it is. So exec dash timeout. So important to use those question marks. And I believe you can disable it. Yep, if you do 0. So exec timeout 0. There we go. And then we can do logging synchronous. And then if we can do terminal monitor as well. There we go. And then we'll get any messages. So I'll do a write mem. All right, and I want to apply that for all the devices. I do have to end the video very soon, but let's get the configuration ready. Okay. So exec timeout 0, logging synchronous. All right, so here's the script that we can go and paste into all the other ones. Oh, and this script is not it's not in this. So let's open a or shoot, let's go back here, open a new file, and then type in the script here. So it's configure terminal. Line VTY 015. Timeout 0. All right, then logging synchronous. So there we go. So, sorry, not logging synchronous. Write memory. There we go. All right, so this one's good to go. It won't time out. And see how easy this is? This is why Ansible is frustrating to me. Like, if you're a competent network engineer, It's not hard to do manual changes. And if you're not a competent engineer, you're not going to get Ansible to work. All right, so now these connections will persist. And I have a feeling the issue is with, or I have a feeling that we can move forward very fast just by enabling netconf. So, system, I know how to do it on a Juniper. I'm not quite sure how to do it on a Cisco like this. So I think it'd be like IP service netconf, or Juniper. The command is IP services. So it'd be okay. So then what's going on? What's going on? So the next one is, I think it's HTTP or IP HTTP. Okay. Oh, there it is right there. So the command is netconf and then SSH. And there we go. I think that's the whole command. All right, so now we've got netconf, so hopefully that playbook will work. So open another one to a bash shell and run that playbook. So source, okay, and then Ansible -playbook -i hosts.ini, and then playbooks, the campus iOS facts. I kind of wish I had committed these changes before I did that, but Oh, okay. So connection type netconf is not valid for this module, which is very odd to me because we saw that you could set that up on the device itself, but apparently the module doesn't support it. So I think that's going to be it. I'm going to stage this change and then push it. I'm going to say attempting netconf. Commit and push. And sync. And then that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.